Japan is the only country in the world that has been banned from having its own army at the constitutional level since the Second World War, in exchange for a guarantee of sovereignty by the United States. But despite the military restrictions, the Land of the Rising Sun intends to create a new generation aircraft carrier based on the Izumo-class helicopter carriers of the Japanese Navy. What will this ship be like? And will it be able to strengthen the country's defense capability? During World War II, a few years before the Army ban and the era of pacifism, Japan armed itself with the largest aircraft carrier of the time, the ship of the Imperial Navy Shinano, launched in October 1944. This giant was one of 3 Yamato-class heavy-duty ships that was transformed into an aircraft carrier after the Battle of Midway, where the Imperial Navy lost 4 of the strongest aircraft carriers at once. Imagine the shock of the Japanese Navy when the third and last of the battle superships, the Shinano, was also sunk by a torpedo salvo of the American submarine USS Archerfish on the second day of its military cruise. The last Japanese aircraft carrier was the Amagi, whose service ended even more tragically than that of its predecessor, Shinano. The aircraft carrier Amagi was launched a year earlier than Shinano, in October 1943. But as soon as November 30th, 1945, the ship was excluded from the list of the fleet, and 2 years later, in 1947, its hull was raised and sold for scrap. At the same time, one of Japan's closest neighbors, the Russian Federation, currently has only one aircraft carrier, Admiral of the Fleet of the Soviet Union, Kuznetsov. And that one was built back in the days of the Ukrainian SSR in 1982. The Izumo-class consists of 2 helicopter carriers, the Kaga and the Izumo, also known under the codenames DDH-184 and DDH-183. Construction of the first Izumo-class ship began in 2011 at the IHI Marine United Shipyard in Yokohama. Local authorities have allocated $1.5 billion for its construction. Destroyers of this class were created as a replacement for 2 ships at the Shirane-class, which were planned to be decommissioned in 2014. The Izumo was put into operation in March 2015, and 2 years later, in 2017, it was joined by the second ship of the series, the Kaga. Although the ships were classified as helicopter carriers, in December 2017, the authoritative sources reported that Japanese authorities were considering modifying the Izumo-class ships into light aircraft carriers capable of carrying the latest American F-35B STOVL fighters with vertical takeoff capability. One of the alternative options was the purchase of aircraft of their own production. China reacted to these rumors with instant criticism of the Japanese government, urging them to be more careful. In February 2018, Yomiuri Shimbun shared a rumor about the purchase of 40 F-35Bs compatible with the modified vessel Izumo. At that time, it was estimated that one such ship would be able to accommodate 12 F-35B aircraft at a time. Sometime later, in November 2018, the Japanese Minister of Defense confirmed the rumors, officially announcing the start of work on the conversion of the Izumo-class into light aircraft carriers, operating 42 F-35B aircraft purchased from the United States. In the future, it was planned to expand the aircraft fleet by another 100 F-35 fighters and modify the second ship of the Izumo-class, the Kaga. The plans for the transformation of the destroyers included strengthening the decks of the ship so that they could withstand the additional weight of the F-35B, as well as tolerate the heat generated by the jet engines of American fighters during vertical landing. In addition, it was assumed that the bow of the flight deck, which had a trapezoidal shape, is transformed into a rectangular one for ease of operation. Work on squaring the bow of the ship is scheduled for the end of 2024. Significant changes will also affect below-deck hangars and maintenance facilities. Realizing that old ships could no longer be classified solely as helicopter carriers, Japan's ruling party promptly renamed them Izumo Multipurpose Destroyers before the end of 2019, when the budget for the 2020 light aircraft carrier program was approved. Overseeing the Izumo's transformation, the U.S. Marine Corps said it intends to use the F-35 STOVLs to take off from ships in collaboration with their crew to enhance Japan's ability to fly the latest fighters. In turn, the Japanese Air Self-Defense Forces ordered 42 F-35B Stovals back in 2019 for the purpose of operating them from ground bases, claiming that they did not intend to use them in conjunction with Izumo-class ships. But everyone was well aware that such statements by the authorities are mainly due to the desire to avoid harsh reaction to their decision from other countries in the region. In July 2021, it became known that of the 42 F-35 aircraft purchased by the country, 18 units will be provided until 2023, 6 more fighters in 2024, and 2 more in 2025. It's still unknown when Japan will transfer the remaining 16 aircraft. A single squadron of 20 aircraft will be formed from the received F-35s operating from the Nietabaru Air Base in Miyazaki Prefecture in the southwest of the country. Military experts hinted that this location was not chosen by chance, but because of the proximity of the airbase to the port where one of the Kaga-class destroyers is stationed. When talking about Japanese light aircraft carriers, many compare them to their American counterparts of the Nimitz and Gerald R. Ford class. It would seem that they are all aircraft carriers, but still the difference between them is too critical. Let's start with the fact that the American aircraft carriers of the two mentioned classes, and not only them, are designed using the Cato-bar system, which allows you to launch and lift aircraft from the deck of aircraft carriers. During the Second World War, a hydraulic catapult was used, but in all modern aircraft carriers, another type is used: steam. Although the United States is already preparing a more innovative system, EMALS, which uses a linear induction motor instead of a steam piston when launching aircraft from the deck. Aircraft carriers Izumo were originally designed without a catapult, and it's unlikely that Japan is ready to spend a lot of money to even more radically reshape its ships. In this case, it'd be wiser to create new ones from scratch. But there would be big troubles at the construction level with this approach. In addition, the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford can carry 90 aircraft and helicopters, which is almost double the number of both converted Japanese Izumo-class destroyers combined. If we talk strictly about the technical characteristics, then Izumo loses on all fronts. Its displacement is 27,000 tons versus 106,300 at the Nimitz and 100,000 tons at the Ford. The length of the Izumo is 248 meters. The width is 38 meters, and the height is 7.5 meters, which in all respects is less than the 337-meter Ford, with twice the width of 78 meters and the height of 12 meters. Some experts consider speed to be an advantage of Japanese destroyers, but given the size of the American supercarriers, it's worth giving credit to a colossus capable of moving at the same speed as a ship almost half its size. All three ships move at the same speed of 30 nautical knots, equivalent to 35 miles an hour. But Izumo wins an unconditional victory in comparison with ships of the Nimitz and Ford class in saving budgetary funds for the creation and maintenance of the ship. The Izumo-class light aircraft carrier costs $1.5 billion, while the Nimitz class is costing U.S. taxpayers $9.55 billion as of 2019, and its larger sibling, Ford, is even more expensive, more than $17.5 billion in manufacturing and research and development. In fact, almost 12 Izumo ships can be built for the price of one Ford. On the other hand, in Ford's case, we only know the cost of construction, but this should also include the cost of modernization, the final amount of which is still a mystery even for the Japanese themselves. As for the service personnel, 470 people will be required to maintain the stable operation of the Izumo, and together with the landing party on board, the number can be increased to 970 people. A total of 3,532 crew members are required to service the Nimitz, of which 2,480 are in the wing, and Gerald Ford literally devours man-hours, demanding close attention from 4,539 people, including the wing crew. As you can see, the Japanese are still very far from the scale of American aircraft carriers. On the other hand, the United States actively supports all of Japan's initiatives in self-defense in connection with the aggravated situation in the East China Sea region and the active development of the naval forces of the People's Republic of China. Consequently, the steps of the Land of the Rising Sun towards the modernization of its fleet cannot be considered unreasonable. All countries in this region regularly sort things out among themselves, putting forward certain territorial claims. For example, the PRC Navy constantly uses the Miyako Strait, an international sea passage located between the Japanese islands of Okinawa and Miyako, about 145 nautical miles, which in fact violates the country's sovereignty. It's also worth considering the remoteness of the Japanese island air bases from the disputed region. In this case, an aircraft carrier, even a small one, would be the best solution for resolving disputes and even possible conflicts. Thanks to this, the Japanese Naval Self-Defense Forces will be able to operate away from bases and their air forces cover and protect citizens from the active interest of neighboring countries longing for Japan's territories. What do you think of the new incarnation of Japanese destroyers? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to stay up to date with the latest military news. See you soon!